Welcome. My name is Jasmine Kamboj, and I'm a medical oncologist and hematologist in the state of Minnesota and your host for the day. Empowering Oncologist is a podcast brought to you by OncoDaily, where we will focus on day-to-day concerns of an oncologist's being and workflow with a vision to find sustainable solutions. We hope to share our stories of wins, losses, resilience, and inspire and empower our community because we fly higher and longer when we fly together. Before we dive in, a disclaimer. The views shared on the podcast are an individual's and in no way are views or contributions from any institution, organization, or guidelines. For our session today, we have Dr. Fumiko Chino, who is a cancer researcher and associate professor in breast radiation oncology at the MD Anderson Cancer Center in Houston. She was a founding lead of the Affordability Working Group at Memorial Sloan Kettering. She is also one of the directors at the Costs of Care Group. Her research is focused on patient-centered care, including the financial toxicity of cancer care and survivorship, healthcare disparities, equity, and access. She is the recipient of the inaugural 2022 ASCO Excellence in Equity Award. Her work has been published in Lancet Oncology, JAMA Internal Medicine, and JAMA Oncology. Her commentary on healthcare reform and cancer care has been featured in the New England Journal of Medicine, JAMA Oncology, USA Today, and the Los Angeles Times. Her work has been covered by national news media outlets, including the New York Times, Forbes, NPR, and NBC News. He serves as an associate editor for JAMA Network Open, a special editor for JC Oncology Practice, and is the chair of the 2025 ASCO Quality Care Symposium. She has received research support from the NIH, the Radiation Oncology Institute, and the Chanel Foundation, and has spoken across the U.S. and internationally on equity and the costs of care. When not working, she is engaged with art, photography, nature, hiking, and Lego building. That is wonderful, wonderful accomplishments and all the work you do, Dr. Chino. Thank you and welcome for being here.
I appreciate the invitation, and I've got to remember to edit down my bio.
It's wonderful, you know. Fumiko, tell us about your journey. How do we have such an impressive bio about you?
I'm happy to. I'm currently in Houston, Texas, as you mentioned. I've been here for about a year. I spent 5 years on faculty at Memorial Sloan Kettering before moving to Houston. And before that, I did all my training at Duke in Durham, North Carolina. So I'm a radiation oncologist. I specialize in breast cancer. And I do research like you had mentioned, access, affordability, and equity. The whole story starts with essentially an art degree. I have a fine arts degree in photography. I was living this, art-centered life in Houston, Texas as the art director of an entertainment company when my fiance at the time was diagnosed with cancer. And that's when I realized that there was going to be sort of a horrible chasm in my life with that diagnosis. Based on our travails through the healthcare system and then through his progressive illness and unfortunate death, it made me think I really need to shift my focus. I can't just sell people DVDs anymore. So I went to medical school as a 33-year-old and went out into the world with a mission to try to improve access to healthcare. And so since that time, I've just been sort of like doggedly plugging away at that mission and hopefully making incremental progress towards improving care for people with cancer.
Oh, you're a perfect example of how our personal challenges and struggles can be so motivating towards our life's choices and inspiring for others. So thank you for all that you do, and I'm so sorry for the loss. I really am.
Thank you. No, I would actually so much rather not be inspirational, right? I would rather just be living a
Right.
very boring life right now, continuing on my prior trajectory. But
Mm-hmm.
when life throws you a curveball, you can
Mm-hmm.
either lay down defeated or you can
Mm-hmm.
try to pick yourself back up, dust yourself off, and try to figure
Mm-hmm.
out how do I move forward
Uh-huh.
with motivation, with, purpose,
Yeah.
with a mission.
Absolutely. Absolutely. No, I mean, your bio, your introduction has anyway been so inspirational and you've done so much. So we're all very, very proud of you. Fumiko, you're a radiation oncologist and I see you everywhere in ASCO. You just chaired the quality symposium. You are there for the advocacy summit. You're all over the annual meeting. You are everywhere. How do you do that, and how is that for a radiation oncologist to be so present and engaged in an oncology society? I mean, it does cater to all of us, but how does that feel from a rad-onc standpoint?
Absolutely. It's such a good question. I have to say, I sometimes feel like I have two parents. I have ASCO and ASTRO, which is the Radiation Oncology Society, and I'm also quite active in ASTRO as well. But as a radiation oncology within the larger ASCO, I actually find I live in a kind of a special space.
Mm-hmm.
There's fewer radiation oncologists, and so I can potentially have a bigger impact
Right.
representing my field. And then what I realized is that honestly, the research that I do and my focus is not radiation specific. And so
Mm-hmm.
it actually helped me to broaden the impact of my work, my collaborative, relationships, etc., to be involved in the larger ASCO in general. Radiation oncologists generally, though, are a little bit on the outside at ASCO. And so you really kind of have to be persistent
Mm-hmm.
and step forward and say, hey, I want to be involved in this. You have to, as you may know, apply multiple times for
Right.
volunteer positions on committees. You have to be engaged. You have to be
Mm-hmm.
enthusiastic. And weirdly, I actually feel like my activities on social media have actually been one of the key parts of me being able to kind of be everywhere all at once, within ASCO, because I actually serve on the communications committee, and I'm fairly confident that's because I'm so engaged on social media.
Oh, that's wonderful. I did not realize that. Well, you also just graduated from your LDP class, isn't it?
Yes, yes, yes.
Wonderful. How was that
Yeah.
experience for you?
Oh, LDP was fantastic. I want to
Uh-huh.
encourage every single junior faculty member to apply. And
Mm-hmm.
again, to just remind you that a lot of people have to apply multiple times.
Uh-huh.
The LDP program, the Leadership Development Program, is really trying to fill that gap where essentially we were all, hustling. Like nobody has classically taught people how to be leaders. We're told that we need to be leaders, and obviously we work within large teams and often lead those teams. But the skill sets to actually be effective leaders are sort of in a nebulous thing. Some people will do their own,
Mm-hmm.
leadership training in their institutions, or hire like a coach.
Right.
But the Leadership Development Program is a really good way that ASCO is investing in the future leaders in oncology,
Mm-hmm.
and I've just benefited from it so much.
Right, right, right. I love ASCO for a variety of different ways. I think everybody knows that. But one of the things that I feel ASCO does a great job is that they really look 10, 20 years ahead of the current times. And they're like, what can we do that will make this better 10 years from now? I'm like, wow, I don't know what I'm going to do this weekend. So anyhow, all right, Dr. Chino, transitions are challenging, right? Especially from one big city to another big city, from one big organization to another big organization. You just successfully navigated that. Tell us about your secret sauce around this transition.
Absolutely, or I'll try to at least. I'm 1 year into my faculty position at MD Anderson. I don't think I would have realized how complex of a transition it would be. I think, one world-leading cancer center, another world-leading cancer center, no big deal. But the way that research is done here is different. The way the clinic runs is different.
Mm-hmm.
The vibe of the institution is different. So and
Mm-hmm.
even honestly, the patients are different. And so it's a little bit of a bumpy transition. And then I think, for me personally, as someone who's very interested in access and affordability, it's far cheaper to live in Houston, Texas than it is to live in New York City. But then the political environment and some of the legislation here is a lot more restrictive. So it's sort of, personally, it's been easier, but then I also see some of the maybe negative health repercussions of a more restrictive environment on some of my patient population. So it's sort of like moving from a very blue state to a very red state. You can certainly see how that can influence access to care. And this is not to be pedantic about political affiliations. It's just some of the policies in, for example, New York in terms of access to healthcare and liberalization of, qualifications to get high quality healthcare are very different than in Texas.
Does it feel that policy has a lot more impact at MD Anderson than Sloan Kettering, or both institutions have to follow where the policy in their respective states are trending?
Yeah. So I would certainly say as MD Anderson is the University of Texas at MD Anderson. We are, a state institution, and we are certainly very rigorous in terms of following the state guidelines. And so I would say that it's quite important here, and we need to make sure we're following the letter of the law. And the Texas legislature is quite active, and so that means sometimes that we will have to, change our policies. So, for example, the faculty senate actually just got dissolved because there was a recent law passed in Texas that said that the state-run institutions of learning had to dissolve their faculty senates, and so we're still trying to kind of figure out the next steps from there to make sure that our faculty still have representation within leadership, if it's not called a faculty senate, what that means.
So, what exactly is a faculty senate?
Yeah, good question. So the faculty senate is, I'm barely learning because keep in mind I'm new here, and they did just dissolve it. But it was essentially representatives of departments that were working in the faculty's best interest to make sure that things like, for example, reimbursement patterns are aligned with national benchmarks, that are, for faculty that needed remediation, that was a fair and just process, and that the institutional goals are aligned with the faculty that works at the institution, and vice versa, to make sure that we're all one big happy family. But yes, so that was a big change, and I'm still with bated breath to figure out what the next steps are in terms of making sure that the faculty is well served by the institution and that we are doing a good job. The environment here is really delightful, though, and I cannot speak more highly about how collegial I am with my, my colleagues, how fun it is to be in the workroom, and also the work-life balance difference of a Texas mentality versus a New York mentality. 4:30, everyone is gone from clinic. It's like you can, it's like a whirlwind went through and the door's still swinging. And if you're still at your desk, it's a shock to the cleaning person.
Wow. Well, I feel in some way that is the long-sightedness of the medical profession, right? Like if we are able to take care of our faculty and our trainees, and especially junior faculty who is still like navigating the early transitions of their careers, family life, whatever, I think we better do that, right? So that they can have a long-term career and they don't quit early on because of burnout. So that's great to know. All right, Fumiko, what advice or tips do you have for our audience who would like to engage, like yourself, in several different roles? Like you're a leader, you're a researcher, you are, in academia, you are an advocate. How do you do that?
Maybe poorly sometimes, and other times, just realizing that when you wear multiple hats, it's a balancing act. I think having some clear delineations of boundaries is really important. And so I was able to establish for myself good boundaries even during training, during residency, where unless it was mandatory because of, coverage, I actually don't work on the weekends. So when I go home, I'm home, and that actually helps protect my sanity. I really do try to finish my work at work. And so sometimes that means that I'm actually at work really late, past 4:30. Um, but it also means that when I am home, I have a clean slate and I can be truly present. So that is, really important for me. I think the other aspects of just trying to balance it all is that I really do mission-driven research, mission-driven advocacy. It's all based on trying to be very patient-centered and to try to move the needle forward for patients. And so it all is aligned. And so it doesn't seem like I'm wearing multiple hats. It seems like I'm wearing one big fabulous hat. And it might have different sparkles on it, but it's all sort of the common mission. And so that has been really nice to align myself with something that I really, truly care about. And it's advice I would give any single person, which is if you look at what you're doing and it doesn't, sort of like the Maria Kondo, does it bring you joy? Your work should bring you joy. It should make you fulfilled. It should give you more than you give it. And if there's an imbalance there, it's an opportunity for you to look and say, well, what can I get rid of, here that's not serving me or my patients. And I've just lucked into figuring out the things that make me tick and make me feel like I'm making a difference.
You bring up so many great points. It's really important that we remember when there's transitions that it's going to be bumpy. It may not be a smooth ride. It's actually never a smooth ride for a lot of us, right? But we kind of struggle with that bumpiness because we're all type A personalities, right? And second, if you're doing something that is bringing you so much joy, it doesn't feel like work anymore. And if it's purpose driven, I love how you said it's mission driven or purpose driven, which is being patient centric. It actually really reinvigorates you every single time you do a new project. So when I feel like we're all like little butterflies when we come back from ASCO's advocacy summit. So we're it kind of boosts, gives us that boost of energy. I so agree with you. All right. Any guidance you would wish to share with our early career oncologists, or one advice you would give to yourself of 10 years ago?
Yes, when I think about kind of my trajectory in my career, I think initially I was trying to say yes to everything. I was trying to be open to all avenues, all research options. And I think what was a kindness to myself was to realize that I could actually narrow sooner rather than later, and that it wouldn't limit my capacity for growing in my career. So that the phrase I usually use is it's okay not to try to always be pluripotent. You have a stem cell that can be any type of cell.
Right.
I am terminally differentiated. I know what I want to do and I am doing that. And I think that is also fine for trainees to realize, hey, I am passionate about this thing. I want to do this thing for the rest of my life, and to just dig into it.
Right.
And then the other thing I'll say is that, along the way, I've had some ideas that I wasn't necessarily able to do at the time I had them, but I wrote them down. And I am still actually completing ideas that I had in training from a decade ago.
Wow.
And I think that, a good idea doesn't expire. And so maybe you don't have the capacity, the skills, the wherewithal, the data to answer that question at the time you have it. But it's probably still a good question, especially if it's something that kind of dings at you in the back of your head. Just write it down and kind of come back to it later and say oh yeah, that was, an important question on access or side effects or communication. And you would never quite realize how much that can actually help you down the road when you're kind of in a dry spell and you're this idea from when I was a PGY1 is actually a pretty good idea.
Wow. So do you journal a lot then, Fumiko?
I have a Google Doc actually for these ideas. I've never been a journaler, which is too sad because my sister is a big journaler, and she has her whole archives from when she was, in grade school. And every now and then she'll I know it's such a resource, and I
Yeah.
love that her capacity for self-reflection. She'll like
Yeah.
pull a journal down from a shelf and she'll read something out loud when she was like 11, and it's number one hilarious. And
Yeah.
there's a lot of commentary about school lunches, but that also I just feel like it allows her to understand
Yeah.
her own journey. So sadly, I'm not a journaler. I do
Okay.
take a lot of photos though, and I can kind of go back through my timeline in my photographs to be like, oh, this is where I was at that time. This is how the light hit me. This was kind of my mood. And so that's been very helpful for me to kind of look back through time photographically.
Beautiful. All right, Fumiko, a little bit of a fun rapid fire about you. Your favorite book?
I'm a big fan of Haruki Murakami. He's a short story novelist from Japan. And Hard-Boiled Waterland and the End of the World is a book I've reread probably 20 times in my lifetime. And it's just a delightful romp through a universe that is very strange.
Aw, I'll have to take a look at that. I don't think I've read that. Your favorite leader?
Well, I'm a radiation oncologist and a woman, so I have to say Marie Curie. As you know, she was one of the founding leaders of radiation oncology, unfortunately died from anaplastic anemia from exposure. She used to keep radioactive sources in her desk. And so long-term exposure to that most likely contributed to her death. So she really did pay the ultimate price. But her work, even from, even during the war, she was actually had organized these, they're called mini Curie vans, where they would actually go to the field and take x-rays, and it actually reduced the rate of amputations for, soldiers on the battlefield, all the way through her 2 Nobel Prizes for radioactivity. She's an incredible leader.
Wow. Thank you. I think I'm a big fan of Marie Curie. My son, who was they had a science project when he was, I think, in 3rd or 4th grade, where they had to mimic a scientist and like dress like them and like create a poster about the scientist of their choice, and he chose Marie Curie. So that was so cute. Well, I'll send you some pictures of that project.
I love it. One of the things I actually would mention about Marie Curie is that her husband was such an incredible champion of their work together. And this is, this whole concept of he for she. The first Nobel Prize, they won it together, but they originally just wanted to give it to him. And he said, no, this is work we've done together. Aww. You give it to both of us, or you give it to neither of us, but I will not accept this on my own. And so that's why that was her first Nobel Prize.
Wonderful. What a love. I did not know that part of the story. That is such a lovely part of the story. Thank you. All right, Fumiko, your favorite study, non-breast cancer study?
My most recent favorite study is the challenge trial, which was published in the New England Journal of Medicine, concurrent with the ASCO meeting. Research that shows that a structured exercise program over 3 years can improve outcomes for patients with colorectal cancer. Just phenomenal study. The benefits seen are actually higher than some drugs. And when we think about the role that we can be doing better to support the whole person, including things like diet, exercise, emotional support, communication, financial toxicity. These are all part of the full dynamic of survivorship that I think we need to be making larger investments in.
I so agree with that. Your favorite restaurant in Houston?
In Houston, we have a number of different vegan restaurants. If you can imagine, I'm vegan. And there's actually one just down the street from my house that's called Mo Better Brews. It's a soul food vegan restaurant. And so they have things like chicken and waffles, but they're vegan. And it's just very tasty. It's very delightful for brunch. It's a pretty long wait. And that's the only deficit, but it's just very, very tasty.
Wonderful. Well, if you didn't know this, I actually trained at Baylor, and I loved hanging out at Rice Village whenever we got time, which was very rarely, but whenever we did as trainees, you know how it is.
Yeah, no, Rice Village is amazing. In fact, even just walking around, Houston in general, not super walkable, but the Rice Village area is like a nice little
Is it?
cosm of
Yeah.
of walkable, very
Yeah.
delightful. You can go to get, your
Right.
dinner and then your ice cream, and then go to a bar. It's very it's
Very cute. Very
yes, it's very
European
cute.
and cute looking, right?
Yes,
And
yeah,
you can
yeah,
shop in all those cute little stores.
absolutely.
Wonderful. Uh, your favorite hike, Fumiko?
I actually, this is so hard because
Mm-hmm.
I've been on hikes all over the United
Mm-hmm.
States, but then also across the world.
Okay.
And I went on this really lovely hike actually in Laos,
Okay.
which is
Oh,
Southeast Asia country.
sure.
And I almost died multiple times
Whoa.
because there's these hikes in
Details. We need the deets.
it's just that, the trail is not very well
Yeah.
demarcated. There's a cliff right next to you.
Mm-hmm.
So we went up this pretty long, it was like an hour and a half, 2 hours to get to the top of this waterfall.
Yeah.
But it was just so delightful to be at the top of the waterfall. Like, you could take a dip in the cool water. You have this beautiful
Mm-hmm.
vista. It feels
Mm-hmm.
very otherworldly.
Mm-hmm.
And because, I have had the privilege of traveling. It makes you just realize it gives you a different perspective on the world when you've struggled up this mountain, and then you see like there's like 7-year-old kids up there like selling you bottled water because like this is just their life is like so.
Oh my, tell me about it. I have just recently started getting myself into skiing because my kid got into skiing last year at his school team. And it is it is so aggravating to see these 2, 3-year-olds. They're super cute, but they're like skiing like they're ski masters. Whereas I was struggling on a bunny hill to get up. It is hilarious.
I cannot even manage. I have no skill set for anything physical. And so like, my balance is horrible. Like I have like no stamina, hence the fact I was struggling up the hike maybe. So the fact that I even continue to persistently go
Yeah.
out and like walk in nature,
Yeah.
it's only explained by the fact that I realized that hiking is just walking.
That is hilarious. Thank you. Thanks for sharing that. All right, Fumiko, you're the youngest of the 7 kids. Any fun stories or fun anecdotes from childhood being the youngest of the 7?
Yeah, so my mom is actually an oncologist, and
Mhm.
so she was very, busy as we all know it's a
Mhm.
lot of work to treat people with cancer, and so she definitely was an incredible mother, incredible model. Sometimes we were a little bit like raised by wolves, though, where we sort of just
Mhm.
sort of had to take care of ourselves.
Uh-huh.
And as the youngest, I was always the person that was sort of just like not
Mhm.
an afterthought, but I was just sort of like, oh yeah, and there's Fumiko.
Mhm.
And so I had a lot of freedom, which was
Uh-huh.
really great.
Uh-huh.
When I was a kid, we actually had this big whiteboard in our
Uh-huh.
house, and you would just write where you were. It would just be
Uh-huh.
like, I'm at so and so's house, or
Okay.
I walked to the store.
Mhm.
And there was like none of this sort of helicopter parenting
Yeah.
as there is today, to the point where sometimes my family would actually go out to dinner and they would forget me.
Oh my gosh, Home Alone.
Yes, I would like I might have like I used to take an occasional nap after
Uh-huh.
school, and I
Uh-huh.
would, be in my room like taking a
Mhm.
nap, and
Mhm.
they would have said, hey, we're going to dinner, like
Mhm.
everyone get in the van, and I
Mhm.
wouldn't answer because I was sleeping, and I would
Yeah.
wake up and I'd be like the house would be empty, and I was like, where is everyone? And then I would check the whiteboard because, like but
Yeah.
there would be nothing there because they thought they kind of had all the kids.
Yeah. Right.
And yes, that happened more than once, and I still rib my mom about that to this day.
That that is funny. I'm glad you're laughing about it.
I mean, I'm the youngest of, 7,
Of
so it
course.
was just chaos in the making. As it turns out, actually, hilariously, 2 of my siblings are also radiation oncologists. So we
Oh,
have like a little cadre of radiation
that's
oncologists
funny.
that we can do our own,
Yeah.
tumor board.
Oh, your parents clearly did not raise super accomplishing kids. Huh? Three of you are add-ons. Wonderful.
Yes. Yeah. We
Wonderful.
also have an engineer who works at NASA. We have a marketing executive. We have a lawyer. So yeah, we're
Oh my
all
gosh.
type
You
A
you
personalities.
oh my gosh. That's exciting. All right, Fumiko, last question for you. If you were to relive your life, would you choose to become an oncologist?
It's funny because I never actually chose to do oncology at first. I thought I was going to go into geriatrics. I was determined with the path that led to medicine that I did not want to deal with a situation like what I had experienced. I was like, oh, that will be too hard. But as I went through medical school, I realized that this was the path for me to try to, galvanize my experiences into the mission that I do now. And so I never intended to choose oncology in the first place. And so clearly I was pulled into it. So yes, I would absolutely choose oncology. I was pulled into it without even my will, for example. And I would still choose to be a radiation oncologist as well. It's an incredible field. And I feel like we are able to practice truly precision medicine. And it's been very rewarding.
Wonderful. Thanks, Dr. Fumiko Chino. All right. So the three key takeaways for the oncology community from our conversation today. Number one, I love how Dr. Chino mentioned that if you want to do multiple things, it's really important that we set our boundaries. And it's really important that we do something that is purpose-driven or mission-driven, because that actually brings so much joy and invigoration that it almost doesn't feel like work. So that is awesome to know. Number two, if you know what you want to do, don't try to be pluripotent. I love that term. She has managed to terminally differentiate herself early on, and you can too. And you can be the expert in your one area, and that would go really well in establishing your own niche long term. And then again, when there are any major transitions, especially, from a big city or a big organization to another, just remember to give yourself that grace, because for a while it's going to be bumpy just because, everything is so different, the way organizations run or the patient population or demographics or just the city. And allow yourself that grace. I know that I have personally been very hard on myself whenever I have had the transitions. So I think it's really important we give ourselves that grace. Thank you to our viewers and listeners. Thank you, Dr. Chino. This is Jasmine Kamboj and Dr. Fumiko Chino signing off on behalf of OncoDaily from our conversation on empowering oncologists. And now we have the Empowering Oncologist playlist on YouTube. Don't miss an episode and stay tuned. Thank you.
Don't forget to like, comment, share, and subscribe to OncoDaily on YouTube. Hit the bell icon to stay updated.